A lot of people are talking about the AstraZeneca vaccine, why it should not be as effective as the other vaccines, especially those from BioNTech, Pfizer, or Moderna. And we see a lot of side effects. What about the 70 to 95% ranges? What does that mean? I got my AstraZeneca vaccine yesterday, so I do think that it is better than we think. And why? I will explain in this video. So if you're interested, stay tuned. Hi and welcome on my channel. My name is Dr. Patrick.Nuernberger. I work as a physician in Austria, and on my social media channels I try to teach about medicine and medical stuff. So today I want to talk about the AstraZeneca vaccine, why there's a lot of bad news about it and why it is way better than we all think. So I want to tackle some details about the vaccination and also about the percentages that we see on the news and the media and how to read them. And I want to talk about the side effects. I also got my AstraZeneca vaccine yesterday, so I can also talk about personal experiences. And I'm very excited for this video. So if you're interested, stay tuned. So first of all, we need to talk about AstraZeneca itself. So it is developed by AstraZeneca in cooperation with the University of Oxford. So this makes it a little more academic than the other vaccines that we see on the market right now, from BioNTech, Pfizer, and Moderna. So there is a slight difference in what kind of informations we get and what kind of information we see. So we need to be very careful about that. So one of the big problems with the academic background from AstraZeneca Oxford is that there is a lot of study groups involved. So in academic settings, you have the problem, and this really is a problem, that there is a need to publish. So a lot of studies are published. It doesn't matter sometimes how good or how useful they are, but every scientist has this pressure to publish. This is a big problem. Another problem, not directly connected to the vaccinations, but a general problem in academics nowadays. So this leads to the fact that in the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, many little studies were published because those people involved wanted to publish their papers, which is understandable if you think about the need to publish a lot. So there has been a lot of confusion, which was avoided in the other vaccines from Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna, because there no real academic background was seen that has this need of publication. And so they used all the information they gathered from all the studies and also the sub-studies, and they connected them, and then they presented us with the news and the information. So that was a way better way of communication than the one that Oxford AstraZeneca used. And this is the main problem in this vaccine. Not that it is not useful, but the communication was horrible. So there has always been some bits and bits of information, sometimes information that you wouldn't be able to, let's say, read correctly if you don't see the bigger picture behind it. And this led to a lot of confusion, especially outside the scientific world. So this is why the mistrust against AstraZeneca was raised and nourished. And so, as of today, there's a lot of people that do not really trust this vaccine from Oxford AstraZeneca. Most of the arguments are that it is not as effective as the other vaccines, especially those messenger RNA vaccines from BioNTech, Pfizer, or Moderna. I want to explain quickly how to read those percentages and what 95 or 70% means. So if you have a population of, let's say, 50,000 people, you will see that not all of them will get COVID-19. That's understandable, right? So only a few of those people will get the disease. It doesn't matter if it's COVID now, it could be any disease. Let's say 1,000 people out of those 50,000 people get ill, they get sick, okay? Or infected if you want. So now, what was done in the studies here is that the vaccines were always tested against a placebo. So a placebo is when you get nothing. So it seems like you get something and probably you get injected some saline water or something else, but not a vaccine. And let us say in those 50,000 people in the group that received the placebo, 1,000 people got ill or had symptoms, got infected. Let us say they got infected, okay? What does that mean if you have two vaccines that have different approaches, and one is proclaimed with an efficacy of 95% and the other of, let's say, 70%, which is about the range that we see now in BioNTech, Pfizer versus AstraZeneca, for example. So I wrote that down. You need to make sure in your mind that a effectiveness here of 70% does not mean that out of these 50,000 people, only 70% will be safe and the other 30% will get very ill, because that is simply not the case. First of all, only the study groups are compared. So I have a little chart here. So if you have 50,000 people and you see a effectiveness of 70%, this means that instead of 1,000 people in the placebo group, 300 people will get sick or get infected. So it's the 70% out of these 1,000, not out of the 50,000. And if you have 95%, then this gives us 50 people, sorry. So this is important to know. What else we need to consider here is that those 70 or 95% mean all of those infected people that show any sort of symptoms. So even if you have very mild symptoms, let's say you only have a very mild cough or a headache or a dizziness or a very mild fever for one night, you will end up in the group that does not belong to the 70%. What is important here, which is pretty similar to the influenza vaccine as well, is that severe cases of the disease, severe cases of COVID-19, meaning being really sick, having the necessity to be hospitalized, or even going to the ICU or die, those severe complications are not seen at all in those people that are vaccinated. So even though you see an effectiveness of 70%, this does not mean that you're not safe and that you're not, how should I say it? That you're not, so these 70% do not mean that you're not safe from a severe COVID-19 infection. So you will be safe. About almost 100% of those people that are vaccinated, no matter if it is BioNTech, Pfizer, if it is Moderna, if it is AstraZeneca, Oxford, all of those people are safe from a severe COVID-19 infection. And that is very important. That is what we need and that is what we want. So yes, it is true that more people see mild symptoms in, let's say, the AstraZeneca group now, for example. But is that really that bad? I wouldn't say so, because if you have very mild symptoms, it is like the common cold, if at all. So this is a problem for the pandemic, because people still get infected and they can infect other people. I give you that, that's absolutely true, and that's another problem. But for yourself and for your safety, and this vaccination is for your safety first, it is absolutely all right. You will not get very sick, if at all. You will have mild symptoms, and in the best case, the best scenario, you will not have any symptoms at all and probably not even get infected. Now, what about the mutations? There's a lot of mutations around. There's the British variant, there's the South African one, and there's one from Brazil. And yes, it is true that the studies that we have now, and we need better studies, but the studies we have, they speak clear language, that they show that there's no real effectiveness given by AstraZeneca Oxford against the mutation from South Africa. So that is a problem, especially in my country, in Austria, where we have a lot of cases of the South African mutation right now. And this is a problem, I give you that. But also, against the South African mutation, as well as the other mutations, you are safe from severe infections. So again, you will probably get mild symptoms. So, as I said, a sore throat or maybe a mild cough, but that should be it. It will still prevent you from hospital, ICU, and death, even in the South African mutation that has no effectiveness shown by AstraZeneca. So that is not necessarily true. So the problems we see and the problems we have to tackle here is that there has been a lot of bad communication, there has been a lot of misleading information, and a lot of people that are not into the topic, they talk about it and they make up their own minds, and this is not good because this leads to a very wide spread of misinformation and of misleading information. So first of all, I want to say I got my vaccine yesterday. Yeah. So it is true that many people here in my area that got vaccinated with AstraZeneca Oxford, that they have seen pretty big side effects, like fever for 2 days, or just dizziness, or being tired for 1 or 2 days. And many people weren't able to go to work the day after a vaccine. That is true, that is a problem, and we need to consider that if we vaccine our colleagues. So we shouldn't do the vaccines in all of those people at the same time, so that if you have people not being able to come to work, that this does not happen at the same day. This is true. But those side effects are not real side effects. This is just the normal immune response, because you inject something that your body wants to fight. And this is what the body does. It fights it, and the immune system works. So if you have those symptoms, that's basically a good sign, because it shows that it works. And why some people have it more than others, I cannot really say. I haven't had big complications. I just feel a little pain in my arm, which is all right. But I know many friends and colleagues that had high fever and they didn't feel that well. So this is something that we need to consider. This is something that we see in all the COVID-19 vaccines that we have up until today. And this is something that we just need to accept. So make sure if you got your COVID-19 shot that the next day you do not need to be somewhere very important. So that's a tip I can give. And still, you will be safe from COVID-19 after that, at least from severe complications of COVID-19. And that is very good, I would say. And so we shouldn't necessarily compare those percentages that we see, and we shouldn't trust all those misleading information, because we can do that. Yeah, absolutely, we can do that, but we shouldn't do that, because AstraZeneca is, as I hopefully was able to show, not as bad as we think it is. And it is way better than nothing. I give you that. It's a point that if you compare BioNTech Pfizer to AstraZeneca, you have differences, and it is very fair if someone says he or she would prefer BioNTech Pfizer. That is all right. But if you do not have the choice, which is the case in my country right now, where it's only AstraZeneca available, then the only choice is AstraZeneca or no vaccine. And in this case, the decision is very easy in my consideration. That's a no-brainer, right? Just get your shot. I mean, let us be thankful that we have the ability to be vaccinated at all this early in the pandemic. And I have to say, I am very happy that I got my vaccine. I feel somehow different. It feels like, the last couple of months and the last year, not that much has happened in the fight against COVID-19. So we were pretty powerless. So all we did was we had lockdowns and lockdowns and lockdowns, and we wore our masks and so on and so forth. But somehow the virus was always a step ahead of us. This is now changing, in my opinion, with the vaccinations being more available to more people, and also myself being vaccinated. I have the feeling that there's something going on, and that we are getting closer and probably even putting our step in front of the COVID-19 virus. The COVID-19 pandemic will be there for longer, that is for sure. We will not fight it this year. We will probably not fight it next year. Probably not even in 2023. I don't know. Probably it will stick with us and will be comparable to the influenza. It will be around, and we will have vaccines, and it will be okay. But the huge crisis that we see, we will be able to fight that. And we will be able to fight that soon with the help of the vaccines. We need to make sure in our minds that we still do not have great treatments against COVID-19. We don't have them. So if you get really sick, that is a problem. But with the vaccine, we have a very powerful tool and a very powerful weapon in our hands. And so please make sure that if you want to make up your mind, if you're insecure about the vaccination, listen to experts. And there's a lot of expert videos around. You find them if you search for them. Make sure to read scientific medical papers if you want to get real information. And that is not easy, I give you that. And if I weren't a doctor myself, I would probably also not read medical papers, because they're often not fun to read, but you need to read them to get your good and trustworthy information. Trust what is on the news and on the media if it is a good source, and you will be able to differentiate between a good source and a not so good source. I'm sure about that. Always stay critical, and if you hear something, make up your own mind. Does that make sense or not? If we wouldn't be able to trust the vaccines, do you think Europe and the rest of the world would start to vaccine everybody, especially all those people in healthcare, if there was a real threat coming from the vaccine? If in, let us say, 5 years, all of those people that got vaccinated dropped dead, there would be no professionals in healthcare around at all. So you would have prolonged, or you would have procrastinated a level. But the problem will be even bigger. So nobody in their right mind would think that if there was a real threat coming from the vaccine, and if we wouldn't think that it is safe, that we would stop, that we would start to vaccine everybody around and all those people in healthcare. Why would you do that? That would be absolutely insane. And I hope that in this video, I was able to show you some of the most important aspects about the COVID-19 vaccine, especially considering AstraZeneca Oxford right now, and that I was able to make you feel more secure. And if not, at least I gave you some motivation to read more about it and to listen more about it. You can check out my other social media channels if you wish. I have a lot of COVID-19 information there. And I often present sources where you can get more information. So I hope this was useful. Please let me know in the comments if you have any other questions, or please also give me feedback how you liked this video and how it maybe changed your mind or not, or supported your thoughts whatsoever. Please let me know. If you like my video and if you like my other videos and channels, please make sure to like and subscribe. This helps me with my channel and it doesn't cost a thing. So up until the next video, I hope you will stay healthy, safe, and I wish you all the best.